Well, I mean, for me, because my parents were pushing me so much into biology and I was so adamant about not doing it, when I switched my major to graphic design, they were pretty upset with me and wouldn't actually acknowledge that I was studying design, or to their friends, they would not tell them that, you know, my daughter is studying graphic design. At that time, it was like, design was there, but it wasn't actually a really predominant field as it is now. And then when I switched to ID, they were even then more in like furious. They're like, oh my gosh, how long are you going to be in college for? You're going to be here, you know, until you're a granny. But at the end, I think their reluctance to acknowledge that I was doing this actually gave me the extra push to prove them wrong. And when I actually started doing really well in the discipline, in the program, that's when they finally started telling their friends, oh, our daughter is doing ID and she just did really well on this project and she just won this award. And so it was kind of their difficulty, the challenge with my dynamics with my parents is actually what really helped propel me and push me to work harder in my major.
That's really interesting because that's, as an advisor on campus, I work with students all the time to help them identify like what they really want to do, not what they've been told that they should do, right? Because sometimes our parents they can't envision all of the possibilities. And sometimes students are in a better position to kind of share with parents like, oh, well, I know about this now, and this is a possibility, and this is a good thing.
It kind of prefaces the rest of your life because you constantly have to go with your gut instinct and push forward even when someone's telling you to do otherwise. Yeah. So I mean, for me, like I can remember it starting from even younger, but that's like one pivotal point in my life where my parents were really against it. And I had to basically tell them, I'm going to go with my gut, and this is something I really believe in. Something in me says I need to do this, and then push forward, and that's showing through in so many other aspects of my career and just in life in general.
Yeah, that's good. No, I was lucky. My parents had no expectations. I was first generation student. They were just glad. I didn't do so hot in high school, so they were glad that, in community college I could kind of turn it around and do what I wanted. But it took me a long time to decide what I wanted to do. I had many majors. Tried this out, and then I tried that out. And eventually I landed in liberal arts because it allowed me to do a little bit of everything. I could do science, sociology, psychology, philosophy.
I come from a mother who's extremely practical, and so I thought coming into San Jose State, I need to, do something very practical. I guess most might not consider psychology a practical major, but I thought, I'm going to be a therapist, and as time went on, I want to be a researcher and get a PhD, and so I kind of always went the practical route. And even, after I was in research for 2 years, I was, working towards applying to my PhD program. I realized that was actually not practical at all. There was no money in that. So I ended up getting into tech. And so, tech, I had a lot of opportunities, financial and otherwise, and, I guess that's a practical decision, but I guess that kind of is where I'd always wanted to go the more practical route.
My case is similar to Anthony's, and my parents are first-generation immigrants, and I myself am a first-generation immigrant. And I was also the first to go to college, and so my parents, all they could understand and all they could tell me was go to school, get good grades, get an education. They could care less on what the education was, as long as I was doing good in school and I was continuing. They were always really supportive, and even though I changed my major a couple times, I don't think they even realize that just because of the different cultures, they're not used to the way education works in the United States, so they don't really understand as much of the technical things that go into choosing a major, choosing a school, and all that stuff. So I always had their support, and the only thing that they could tell me is just get good grades, make sure that you finish your education, and that was good.
I think similarly, as a first generation immigrant, my parents also immigrated with me at a young age. My parents were pretty supportive, but I think my parents also had a lot of traditional values and kind of that traditional vision for what they wanted But I pushed back a lot, and I think because growing up, I moved around a lot. I lived in Texas and 10 different cities and all around the Bay Area. Growing up, I observed a lot of different things about different neighborhoods, different communities. And I think my observations and being exposed to getting involved with the environmental club or getting involved with environmental classes led me to choose environmental studies as a major and to think about what kind of career path there might be in urban planning and really shaping the environment that we live in.
I would say for me it's resiliency and adaptability. You always have to adapt to new jobs, new positions, new experiences, and you have to be resilient in your own principles and what you know to be true about yourself. So it doesn't mean that you, by adapting, you're forsaking anything about yourself. But there's a great theorist, career theorist, Crumbolts, who talks about planned happenstance. I think we're so misfed information in the beginning, and we're taught to think, when you're 18, you need to know exactly what your major is, what you plan to be for the rest of your life. And as you've seen, that's exactly not the case, right? You have to try things out, you experiment, and some things work out and some things don't work out. And so you always try to bounce back and reassess your values and reassess your principles. And I see that all the time on campus. I work with these issues in the classroom, but also as an advisor.
I think I was just thinking two big skills. One, who's in the design program here? Okay, good, great. So there's a bunch of you guys. So I'm sure this applies to a lot of majors, but in the design program, that's the only experience I have. You just don't sleep much. You're in class for hours, and then you have to go home and work on your actual projects, which also take hours because it's a creative process. There's no set, you have to read and then you figure out an answer. It's like you kind of just, sometimes you have to meander. Like your mind just has to kind of wander to get to a solution and try all these different paths out before you feel like something feels right. And that time, the time that goes into that is quite tremendous. And I think having a great work ethic will always pay off. So in school, because you have so many classes, so many projects, you really work on your personal process. Like, how do you actually get through your lows? How do you think through a problem? And you get so familiar with that when you enter the workforce, you already have that as a foundation of how you work personally. And I think having a really great work ethic will always, always, always pay off. And then the other one, what was it? It was a work ethic, and I was thinking about it, and it just slipped my mind. But it was, I just had it again. It was work ethic, and well, now I have two. Okay, so it's work ethic, and the other one is integrity. So if you say you're going to do something, finish it all the way to the end. If you say you're going to be somewhere, be there. And there's something about because all you have is your word. So if someone meets you and they come to know you to be a person that always stands by their word, they will come to you with more opportunities. So there's something with integrity that is just like, you just have to have integrity. I feel like that is one of those foundational personal character things that you should have. Having a great work ethic. And then it was something you mentioned before, which is exploring. Like, this is the time where you get to explore who you are, like what your interests are. And as you explore that, you will figure out what works and what doesn't work. And the things that work, it just naturally, just the universe kind of helps push you that direction because it's working. So I feel like one of the biggest skills was often I was just like, if I'm scared of doing that, I'm just going to go try that out. And just, experimenting and exploring that avenue or any avenue and just kind of figuring out what worked for me and what didn't work for me also helped me kind of lead me into, where I'm at right now with the kind of work I'm doing.
So for me, I think the biggest thing that I learned at San Jose State was to really put yourself out there. I think when I first got to San Jose State, I was so content with just, doing my 4 years and then I'll look for a job then. And that's really my number one suggestion as well. Do not do that. Go out and find opportunities, internships, paid or not. That is going to be the best start for you guys going out into the real world and looking for jobs and having that experience. It's opened so many doors up for me. And so I think just learning to put yourself out there, especially post-college, going to networking events, they're so uncomfortable and I'm so, embarrassed and insecure and I don't want to talk to people. But every time that I've actually gone up to someone and talked or asked a question or started a conversation, it's led to jobs, it's led to really awesome interviews. I've made a lot of connections, and so I think just getting outside of your comfort zone, putting yourself out there and sort of finding something for yourself, whether it's a job or an internship or a connection.
And I was going to say the same thing. For me, what I remember most about being at San Jose State is not really what I learned in the classroom, although it was a lot of things that I learned in the classroom. It was about my involvement on campus. And so I was involved, I was doing like 20 different things at once. I remember my senior year, I was just running around from one place to other, but that's the only thing that I remember. Well, not the only thing, but the most important thing that I remember about college and why I loved it so much coming here. And a lot of times we tend to focus on what you're gonna get in the classroom and going into the classroom and just doing that. But I think in my career, the experience is a lot more important than what you actually learn in the classroom. You can have a degree and whatever else you want to have it, but as long as you have that experience, that's what's going to guarantee you to get that job at the end of the day. And so for me, I was organizing on campus. I was very involved in immigrant rights. And then Círculo Hispánico for Spanish as well, and making those connections as well. And so when I graduated, I landed a job as a community organizer in an immigrant rights organization because of the work that I had done on campus. So believe it or not, whatever you do here, the involvement that you have outside of the classroom really counts towards your resume and towards standing out in an interview and getting that job.
I would also have to say get involved. In my first year coming to San Jose State, I was pretty scared. It was a pretty big campus, and I was coming from a pretty small high school. But I thought, the only way I can get myself, out of this comfort zone is to really just start getting involved. And getting involved has opened a lot of opportunities. And I think almost every opportunity I had in my career, it has been because of someone I met while getting involved and volunteering outside of the class. And even my experiences working with the Women's Resource Center and fundraising and raising awareness about vagina monologues to end violence against women and girls. These are passions that I still, care deeply about, and I think when you are involved, you have to be aware that you have a limited time and limited resources. But I think it just makes you be able to work harder and also manage your time better. And that's a skill set that